One of the most common things that I get from beginner podcasters is that they hate how they sound on camera. And I so understand this feeling because I remember listening to myself the first few times I recorded something and I hated my voice. I could tell how nervous I sounded, and I just wanted to come across as much more confident than I was sounding. And I understand this feeling so strongly, and I'm happy to report that now I really enjoy speaking on camera. I even enjoy speaking in public on stages or giving talks virtually, or even like teaching my Emerging Voices classroom every single week. And I'll tell you this. It did not happen by chance. It also didn't just naturally happen. I did some very specific things to be where I am today. So that's what I'm going to share with you in today's video. And if you're new here, hi, my name's Huete. I'm a podcast producer and the creator of the Emerging Voices Accelerator. If you are wondering what kinds of shows I've worked on, here is a quick snapshot of the different shows that I've produced and some of which I've also hosted. I now help aspiring podcasters use their voice to build their thought leadership and hopefully eventually get paid. And one of the questions that comes up with so many of my students is, how do you sound so confident behind a camera? So that's exactly what I'm going to break down for you today. The very first thing, we're going to have to go back like 10 years. I was in New York City and I had just started thinking about a podcast. I wanted to just be more confident at work. I was working as a policy analyst at the time, and I knew that my ability to use my voice was going to be a critical part of what got me to where I wanted to go. And so I joined Toastmasters because I heard that that was a really accessible way. I was going to say easy. It's not easy, but it's a very accessible way to learn to just get practice using your voice. If you don't know what Toastmasters is, they meet, I believe, once a week, depending on where you are. But it's a group that is focused on helping you improve your public speaking and leadership skills. I don't think ours had a membership fee, or if it did, it was very small, maybe like $30 a year or something like that. And I would go every single Wednesday and we would do two kinds of speeches. On one hand, you have the prepared speeches. So you would write it beforehand, you would practice it. I believe it was like 7 or 8 minutes long. You would deliver a speech depending on how big your group is. Ours was pretty big. So I would probably do a speech once every 2 to 3 weeks. And you either did these prepared speeches or you would do these much smaller impromptu speeches. So you would get up, pick a word out of a bowl, and then you would just deliver a mini monologue based on whatever word you got. Now, when I first started, I remember one of my friends coming with me and she was like, wow, you sounded really nervous. And she was right. I saw the video and I did sound really nervous. My voice was really shaky. And that was probably month 2 or 3 of me starting. Now, the genius of Toastmasters, if you decide to do it, is that it happens every single week. For some branches even do it multiple times a week. But the brilliance of it is that if you are forced to put yourself in a position where you are going to speak publicly every single week, it is inevitable that your skill is going to improve just by virtue of repetition and by getting your brain to see that you stood in front of a group of people, you spoke for almost 10 minutes, and you didn't die. Like, I think that was the biggest game changer. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest game changers for me when I was starting Toastmasters was somebody told me, everyone here wants you to win. And to this day, I think about this anytime I am doing a talk, whether it's on stage or if it's an Instagram story, anytime I'm sharing my voice with a group of people, I remember that. That is embedded in the back of my mind, that of course not everybody wants you to win, but the majority of people who are engaging with you, they actually want to hear what you have to say. And that switched something for me because it helped me realize, oh, it's not actually as scary as I thought it was. So while that switch was very helpful, the most helpful part was that I kept showing up. And each speech that you give becomes slightly more complex and complicated, which was also very helpful in helping me develop my storytelling skills. The number one thing, the foundational thing that I think anybody can do today is you can go to Toastmasters and just get in front of a group of people in real life and share a story. Like, just get used to using your voice in front of other people and let your body see that it's actually safe to do so. Nothing bad happens when you do that. I know public speaking is like the number one fear that most people have, but I really don't think it needs to be that way. I will tell you, I actually feel a sense of exhilaration anytime I go up on stage now. I had a talk that I was giving in June, and before going up on stage, I just felt excited. Guys, I'm so excited, and weirdly, I'm not nervous. I felt excited to share my ideas and to get the people's reaction, and that is 100% a possibility for anyone else who is watching this and wanting to feel that way, because it really was just a matter of putting in the reps. And when we talk about reps, we have to talk about every rep has to be incrementally better than the last one. So you are showing up week over week and you're trying intentionally to get better week over week. So it's not just that you showed up, it's actually that you showed up and you put in the effort to do something a little bit better than you did the last time. Once I got good at speaking live, maybe not even good. Once I got better at speaking live, I started sharing my stories and the things that were happening to me on Instagram stories. So I remember I would just be like walking down my apartment staircase and I'd be like, this is what I'm looking forward to today. What's going on in your day? Like, just like I'm talking to a friend on FaceTime, I would start recording myself on Instagram. And what's really interesting is if Toastmasters helped me build some structure around telling more complex, more long form stories, Instagram helped me get my tone right. It helped me realize that I don't need to sound perfect. I can just sound like myself, and I can try and not get engagement and try again tomorrow. And I think this is something that anyone who decides they want to be a good speaker has to get comfortable with, is not everything that you put out is going to be received well. Not everything that you put out is going to be a hit. And it's very easy, if you do get a hit the first time or the second time, for you to not want to put anything else out there because you're not sure that you can match the quality of what you created the first time. The truth is, you want to get comfortable speaking like yourself as soon as possible. And platforms like Instagram Stories, TikTok, I don't know, do people still use Snapchat? YouTube Shorts, all of these are platforms where it's easy enough for you to very quickly pick up your camera, tell a quick story, turn it off, and you're done. This was super helpful in teaching me how to not be such a harsh critic of myself, because it's not that deep. It's a 30-second story. People can skip it if they're not interested, and then you move on. Once I got really comfortable with telling stories on a camera and speaking to my phone, sometimes in public, then I felt really ready to interview guests. And when I was interviewing guests at that phase, I realized even though I feel confident in front of a camera, even though I feel confident when delivering a speech to a bigger crowd of people, I still didn't love how I sounded when I interviewed guests. And that's because I felt like I wasn't as confident as I wanted to sound. My voice, I was doing this like sultry thing because I wanted to sound professional. And in reality, just like on Instagram and on Toastmasters, it just required me putting in the reps. So the more people I interviewed, the better I felt about interviewing people. Now, I will say, and I tell the podcasters I work with all the time, that it's very smart and very wise for you to start your first few interviews with someone that you feel very comfortable and confident with, okay? So a best friend, a parent that you feel safe with, a cousin, someone who you know really is rooting for you and wants the best for you. That's the person you want to do your first interview with. And as you put in more reps, you want to increase the complexity, right? So you can interview someone you are still, someone you know but aren't as close with next. And then you can interview a stranger. And before you decide, I'm going to interview the person who I've had as a dream guest on my list forever. If you start with the dream guest, it's just harder to really sound like yourself because naturally you're going to be nervous. And I'll tell you this, even though I do this for a living now, I speak on camera, I talk to podcasters all day, I interview people. When we were making This Is Dating, I was a host and a producer. And what I realized was if I haven't interviewed someone in a while, it takes me a little bit of time to brush off the cobwebs and get confident and comfortable again. So it's only natural that when you first start, you want to make it as easy for yourself. If some time has gone by between your last interview and your next one, you will feel a bit more nervous and a bit more rusty, or you don't have the same flow that you have had in the past. And all of that is totally normal. But I think that the most important thing is that you just keep putting in the reps. And basically, that's the whole theme of this whole video. Put in the reps and make every rep a little bit better than the one before it. And I didn't mention this when I was talking about Instagram, but that's exactly what I was doing then too. When I was making Instagram stories, I was thinking, okay, how can I make this story more engaging than the last story that I told yesterday? And you can then start telling the difference between telling stories quickly and in an impromptu way versus telling long form stories and structuring them in a way that's interesting and engaging to listen to. So if I were starting completely from scratch, if I did not have the public speaking skills that I have today, what I would first do is look for a local Toastmasters or an equivalent group, something like Toastmasters, people who come together to practice their public speaking. I would do that because doing something scary like this in community is very, very helpful for you instead of you trying to do it entirely by yourself from your apartment or from your room. The second thing I would do is I would use my phone to actually record stories and share it with the world. And for some of you, you aren't ready to share it with the world, which is totally fine. You can record these stories and it be for your camera roll and your camera roll only. And then maybe someday you're ready to share it with the world, in which case you can do exactly that. But short form storytelling using platforms like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, these are brilliant ways to get a story out quickly. Can you tell stories on Snapchat? I actually don't know. I haven't been on Snapchat in years. But telling stories in short form is a really good way to get yourself comfortable with most of the stuff you put out is not going to be a big hit, but then some of the stuff you put out is going to be a big hit, and that's totally normal. That's totally okay. You want to get comfortable with that because that's just a fact of creating creative work. And then the third piece is I would actually start recording my podcast. And when I did, I would start with someone that I feel really confident and safe with. And then I would start interviewing people that I don't know or people that I admire. And then I would interview my dream guest once I feel really confident. And maybe the most important thing is that I would make sure that even though I got the urge to give up, I would remember that this is a skill like any other. And if I practice enough times and I just incrementally improve each and every time, there's no reason in the world why I cannot be an excellent public speaker. So I hope this helps you. And I'd love to hear in the comment below, which of these 3 things are you going to try out in your own life so that you can actually improve your public speaking. I will see you in the next video.